Those fake tears won't wash away your responsibility. You've made the biggest power move, and now they're all mentally scrambled, desperately faking distress to cover their tracks. But waterworks can't put out spiritual fire. What they're going through isn't just your personal payback, it's ancestral justice being served cold after generations of waiting. Your bloodline has a force they never thought of in their equation. Your lineage doesn't forget and doesn't forgive. They are really shaking because they finally realized that they are not just dealing with you, but with a chain of power that goes back in time. They thought you were alone, which was a stupid assumption. They didn't understand that when they faced you, they faced an entire ancestral army of warriors, healers, seers, and spiritual gladiators who cleared paths through the world, seen and unseen, long before your physical form took its first breath. These doubters dismissed when you talked about divine guidance, they laughed. When you tried to warn them about forces they couldn't understand, they laughed in your face. They thought cosmic wisdom was just the ramblings of someone who wasn't connected to reality. Little did they know, they were standing in front of a chosen CH1, a direct line to realms of power they could never access with their spiritually bankrupt lives. Your connection wasn't built on anything. It was forged overnight, through generations of sacrifice, spiritual discipline, and sacred covenant. Your bloodline carries codes that their spiritual DNA could never replicate. Now, they see glimpses of what you tried to tell them. Strange things that can't be explained logically, coincidences that seem to target their weaknesses, sudden changes in fortune that make them question their sanity, doors closing in perfect synchronicity, opportunities disappearing without explanation. Divine timing is real, and so is. You tried to warn them not as a threat, but as a courtesy, a spiritual heads-up from one soul to another. But they chose arrogance over humility, mockery over respect, and temporary gain over eternal wisdom. Now they whisper your name with respect when they think no one is listening. They wonder if you really were connected to something greater. They question if they should have heeded the warnings you offered as gifts instead of treating them as jokes. It's too late now. Too late. The wheels of cosmic justice turn, regardless of their belated recognition. Your power never needed announcement. True strength rarely does. While others beat their chests and proclaimed their importance to anyone who would listen, you carried ancient wisdom in silence, letting your actions, your presence, your energy speak volumes that their limited vocabulary could never articulate. They misread your kindness as permission to take advantage, your compassion as an invitation to overstep boundaries, your patience as weakness that could be exploited without consequence, your soft voice as the absence of authority, rather than the confident whisper of someone who doesn't need to shout to be powerful. What they failed to recognize was the duality of your nature, the perfect balance of divine feminine and masculine energies that allows you to nurture with one hand and deliver justice with the other. The spiritual maturity to heal and harm, to build and destroy, to elevate and eliminate all, with the precision of a you are the soft rain that nourishes the garden and the lightning strike that splits the mighty oak. You are the gentle breeze on a summer day and the hurricane that changes coastlines. This is what scares them now, the fact that they never knew what they were dealing with. Connected to ancient forces willing to move heaven and earth to defend their chosen one, that your silence wasn't submission, but strategic calculation. The patient observation of a spiritual predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They never saw your hidden strength, because they weren't spiritually evolved enough to perceive it like colorblind individuals trying to appreciate a rainbow. They lacked the spiritual receptors necessary to detect the magnitude of what stood before them. Now see the great reversal, the cosmic correction that happens when universal forces bring balance back to situations that have been tainted by disrespect, betrayal, and spiritual arrogance. They used to stand over you, casting shadows with their inflated egos and blocking your light with their self-importance. They looked down on you with contempt from positions they never deserved but somehow got. They used to speak over you, interrupt your wisdom, dismiss your insights, and rewrite stories to make themselves look like heroes in stories where they were not. Actually villains. But divine justice works on a timeline that is beyond human understanding. The universe doesn't rush. It aligns, doesn't forget, and waits. It doesn't forgive without accountability. It orchestrates perfect moments of reckoning where the truth cannot be denied, manipulated, or reframed. Now they tremble as the foundation beneath their feet, built on lies, deception, and the exploitation of others, begins to crack. Fault lines appear in the EMP empire of cards they built. The borrowed energy the masks they've worn begin to slip in public, revealing the true faces they tried so hard to hide. Notice how your opponent's life begins to unravel in ways that don't make sense. How obstacles appear out of nowhere. How their most private thoughts and secrets suddenly become public knowledge. How their health mysteriously worsens despite medical intervention. How their relationships fall apart without a clear reason, and how their financial stability suddenly disappears. Your bloodline carriers knew this day would come, which is why they passed down prayers, sacred rituals, and spiritual technologies that are meant to activate in times like these. The spiritual DNA you carry has fail-safe mechanisms that automatically trigger when someone with bad intentions crosses certain boundaries with you. These opponents laughed when you talked about ancestral protection and dismissed the power of those who came before you. They think of spiritual warfare as superstition instead of the advanced cosmic technology it really is. Now, they are scared as unexplainable forces systematically tear down everything they've built. The most terrifying thing for them isn't what they can see, but what they can't see but know is there. They feel like they're being watched by eyes that go beyond physical perception. They have nightmares that wake them up screaming, drenched in sweat, unable to explain what they saw, but deeply shaken by the experience. They hear whispered names when no one is around the things that move without explanation and the electronics that only break for them. The message is clear. This one is protected. Proceed with respect or face consequences that are beyond human comprehension. You were designed with perfect duality, the ability to heal and harm, nurture and destroy, elevate and eliminate. This isn't spiritual contradiction, it's divine completion, the fullness of power that lets you be exactly what each situation needs. Most people can only access one side. They are either all light with no ability to create necessary darkness, or all shadow with no ability to create light. They are limited spiritually, unable to maintain perfect balance between opposing cosmic forces. But you move effortlessly between realms, one moment extending compassion that heals the deepest wounds, the next delivering judgment that changes destinies. You can speak words that breathe life into dying dreams or phrases that collapse.
Your tears can wash away spiritual impurities, and your laughter can break down illusions that have been around for lifetimes. This duality scares those who thought you were one-dimensional. They put you in a box labeled with their limited perception, thinking they had you figured out. How shocked they are to find out you contain multitudes, that the gentle healer also carries a spiritual sword sharp enough to cut ties across multiple dimensions, that the quiet observer they dismissed harbors the power to speak new worlds into existence. This is why they cannot predict your next move. why their attempts to manipulate you eventually fail, why their strategies against you collapse under the weight of their own limited thinking. They're playing a game using half the pieces, trying to anticipate movements from forces they've never encountered. Your spiritual duality isn't just personal power, it's divine strategy, the ability to respond to any situation. You become the embodiment of compassion when kindness is needed, the enforcer of cosmic law when boundaries need to be set, the channel of universal life force when healing is needed, and the instrument of divine removal when elimination is the only option. People who only know one side of you are strangers to your true nature. People who have seen both sides of you are forever changed by the experience. Few people have the privilege of witnessing your complete spiritual expression. Have earned, and one that forever alters their understanding of what exists. Beyond the veil of ordinary perception, look. You already know the game is rigged, and if you're paying attention, you know the walls are closing in. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. When you live by the day at the market's command, where profit and property rule the land to be heard, to be held, to be dealt a fair hand. These are the things that a people demand. And we hear you. The Obsidian Inner Order has paywalls, yes. Those who stand with us and support this mission give us the strength to fight the Archons, push back against the machine, go deeper to find out more, and as a thank you, paid members get access to a 1-hour live personalized weekly group tarot reading for guidance, insight, and clarity for the road ahead. But kicking a man when he's down is something we can't ignore. That's why you can steal the Astral Atom exclusive daily newsletter for free starting today. No paywall, no catch. Just join the link to the free tier of Patreon is in the description. This is the start of our conversation with you, and it's two-way. You can reply to any email we send you, and we'll read it. We'll hear you, and we'll do our best to get an answer from the universe itself. If you can help, we need you. If you can't, take what's free. The Obsidian Inner Order is open now. Now they weep, now they tremble, now they beg, and now they try to rewrite history with tear-stained revisionism. This doesn't fool anyone, especially you. The spiritual forces that are aligned with your highest good see the performance of a lifetime, Oscar-worthy displays of remorse from those who showed none while causing harm, Grammy-worthy songs of sorrow from those who laughed while causing pain, and Tony-worthy theatrical displays of regret from those who planned their betrayal with cold precision. Watch how quickly these tears disappear when they think a different strategy might work better. When manipulation doesn't work, sadness quickly turns into anger. When forgiveness isn't given right away after performances that don't deserve an audience, remorse quickly turns into resentment. What they don't understand is that true repentance isn't performed. It's embodied. It's not announced. It's shown through consistent action over time. It's not demanded. It's offered without expecting a reward, forgiveness, or anything else. Their tears are strategies to get sympathy, control emotions, and avoid consequences. But divine justice doesn't work on human timelines or respond to emotional manipulation. The cosmic ledger needs to be balanced, no matter how convincingly someone acts sorry. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. Some understanding can only be gained through consequences, and some wisdom can only be gained through loss. Their crocodile tears mark the beginning of education is not the end of cosmic correction. True tears, those shed from real remorse and real understanding, have the power to heal, change, and restore. Crocodile tears only dampen faces and leave souls completely dry. There is power in your distance now, sacred strength in your ability to observe without getting involved as the cosmic plan unfolds with mathematical precision. You have moved beyond the battlefield to higher ground, where the entire landscape of divine justice spreads before you like an intricately designed masterpiece. The satisfaction you feel, witnessing karma collect its debts, isn't petty, it's restorative. It's the universal acknowledgement of your worth, the cosmic confirmation of your value, the spiritual validation of boundaries. They should never have crossed. This isn't about vengeance, it's about balance. The necessary restoration of equilibrium to situations destabilized by their arrogance, entitlement, and misaligned intentions. You don't need to participate in their downfall. You don't need to push. You don't need to sink ships that are already taking on water. Divine timing makes sure that cosmic justice is carried out perfectly without you having to do anything. Your job now is to simply witness, observe, and acknowledge the perfection of universal law working exactly as it was meant to. Let their crocodile tears become the soundtrack to your rise, and let their desperate attempts to rewrite narratives become background noise to your focused creation. Energy trying to rebuild what has been divinely dismantled is a contrast to your peaceful certainty in what is being cosmically constructed for you. If someone confronts you directly, laugh in their face, not out of cruelty, but out of genuine recognition of how silly it is for them to try to change what has already been decided in spiritual courts that they can't reach. Then walk away, not in fear, but in the confident knowledge that your continued involvement is not needed or helpful for processes that are already in motion. Your laughter has creative power. It creates new realities while tearing down old illusions. It sets boundaries while clearing stagnant energy. It announces your freedom while confirming that they are not important to your continued evolution. From a distance, you can now see the front row seat to divine justice in action. This is your cosmic reward for keeping your integrity when compromise seemed easier, for speaking the truth when lies were more convenient, and for standing firm when others suggested you compromise. The revelation that comes after loss is rarely accompanied by restoration. The painful awakening to what was squandered seldom results in second chances. The universe ensured they had multiple opportunities to recognize your value, countless moments to acknowledge your worth, abundant chances to treat your presence as the gift. It actually was. They chose blindness over vision, arrogance over humility, exploitation over appreciation. These weren't mistakes. They were decisions made repeatedly, despite spiritual nudges toward different choices. Their pain isn't your responsibility. Their regret isn't your burden. Their belated recognition isn't your validation. The divine always knew your value, even when human perception failed to recognize it. Cosmic forces always acknowledged your significance, even when earthly estimation missed it entirely. For some, the only way to learn the value of what stood before them is to experience its complete absence from their lives. Some lessons can only be taught through permanent loss. Some understanding can only be achieved through irreversible consequences. Look at them now, spiritually bankrupt, energetically depleted. Soulfully overdrawn, the cosmic credit they were operating on has been completely revoked. The universal resources they were misappropriating have been reclaimed. The divine loans they never qualified for, but somehow obtained, have come due with interest. They cannot possibly pay. They operated for years on B-light, stealing illumination rather than generating. Instead of building their own power, they stole energy from others and pretended to be spiritually powerful. They built elaborate spiritual Ponzi schemes that temporarily fooled others into thinking they had what they had stolen from people who were really connected to Source. But universal law says that all energetic debts must eventually be paid. Cosmic accounting keeps perfect records that can't be changed or erased, and divine auditors never miss a thing. Discrepancies between what one projects and what one actually has. Their spiritual bankruptcy manifests in ways both subtle and dramatic. The light behind their eyes, never truly, theirs has disappeared, leaving flat gazes that no longer convince even casual observers the charisma they once commanded, borrowed from sources they can no longer access, has evaporated, leaving aid energy that repels rather than attracts. The confidence they once projected, stolen from connections they've now lost, has disappeared, leaving behind a desperate uncertainty that shows their true foundation. The most devastating thing is the silence they now feel, the deafening absence of divine guidance they pretended to receive but never actually heard. There is a hollow emptiness where cosmic communication should be, but can't break through because of barriers they built themselves by repeatedly rejecting authentic spiritual principles. The emptiness that follows spiritual resistance becomes their constant companion. Through energetic manipulation becomes their primary residence. The absence resulting from authentic conscience becomes their most loyal relationship. You need not celebrate their spiritual bankruptcy. The universe never rejoices in unfulfilled potential, regardless of how that potential was misused. But you can acknowledge the perfect functioning of cosmic law that ensures energetic balance must ultimately be restored, regardless of how cleverly someone attempts to circumvent universal principles. It was sweet that they really thought you were playing the same game with the same rules and the same limited resources they had access to. They really believed that your kindness was weakness, your patience was fear, and your restraint was inability. What a cosmic miscalculation! What a spiritual misjudgment! What a divine misreading of what stood before them. Playing in your face activated forces they couldn't even begin to understand. And disrespecting your boundaries started processes that were beyond their spiritual vocabulary to explain. When they came for you, they unknowingly volunteered to be cautionary tales, living examples of what happens when someone underestimates a being connected to generational spiritual power. They also unknowingly auditioned for the role of warning sign, human evidence showing the consequences of treating cosmic appointment as common encounter. Awakening matches the arrogance of their approach. The severity of their consequences matches the deliberateness of their disrespect. The completeness of their downfall reflects exactly the totalin of their miscalculation. Divine justice operates with mathematical precision, delivering consequences perfectly calibrated to actions, intentions, and awareness of what was being violated. Some lessons must be learned publicly so that others receive the message at the same time. Some consequences must be experienced dramatically so that the ripple effect affects everyone involved in the situation. Some examples must be made clear so that future offenders know where the line is before they cross it. They thought your spiritual abilities were just theoretical ideas instead of practical technologies that could change physical realities. They thought your ancestral connections were just poetic descriptions instead of real links to forces that work beyond dimensional limits. They thought your cosmic protection was just psychological, self-soothing mechanisms instead of real shields kept up by beings they can't see. Let their example speak so you don't have to. Let their experience teach so you don't have to explain. Let their consequences communicate so you can keep your peace without having to justify the forces that protect you. The battle is over, but your glory has just begun. The war is won, but your victory lap goes on longer than what eyes can currently see. The smoke clears to show not just survival, but also transformation. You didn't just endure. You completely changed into what they were afraid you might become. Your light was never turned off. It was strategically dimmed to show who was worthy of illumination. Your power was never diminished. It was tactically restrained to show who deserved connection. Your presence was never reduced. It was methodically concentrated to show who qualified for proximity. Your path forward doesn't involve retribution or redemption. You've moved beyond both through spiritual evolution. You now walk in divine neutrality, the spiritual state that comes when perfect balance has been restored without any personal intervention. Those who opposed you serve their purpose in the cosmic plan. The divine uses everything, even opposition, to position chosen vessels exactly where they need to be, without even realizing it. Your greatest enemies became cosmic elevators, universal promoters, and spiritual catapults, launching you exactly where you were always meant to go. Thank them silently, not for their intentions, which were misaligned, but for their function in the divine plan, which was perfectly executed. Ed, despite their conscious aims, express gratitude not to them personally, but to the universal intelligence that orchestrates growth using whatever materials are available, including the resistance that strengthens spiritual muscles and develops cosmic calluses needed for the next phase of your journey. The path forward isn't about proving anything to anyone that work is complete. It's about embodying everything to everyone, showing through your existence. What alignment with divine purpose actually produces. It's not about convincing others of your value. It's about creating. At the level your value naturally generates, when unobstructed by those who couldn't recognize it, the greatest revenge isn't getting even, it's getting elevated to levels they cannot access. Even if granted unlimited resources, the most powerful response isn't matching their energy, it's operating at effort frequencies. They can't see that the ultimate answer isn't beating your enemies, it's going beyond the whole battlefield, where conflict was once necessary but is now irrelevant to your expanded purpose. Your ancestors smile, the universe applauds, cosmic forces celebrate, and divine intelligence nods in satisfied acknowledgement that another chosen vessel has completed initiation and is ready for assignment. Only they can fulfill this was always your destiny. This magnitude was always this radiance was always your birthright. They merely helped you see what was already there, what had been there all along, waiting for the ideal moment to completely activate and change the spiritual landscape for generations to come.